countries to believe that we're somehow a part of the problem. And they never actually do the research for themselves because they're a bunch of idiots. Or they're racist, or both. I guess ignorance is bliss. Well, if it was such bliss, why would they be so hateful? And why would they hate themselves so much? Gee, I wonder. It's because, they're envious of the fact that we were the first to actually come up with this? Assad should have defended his people a long time ago. I hope he kills them all. I hope he destroys the UN. We should be cheering the Syrians on, folks. We should be all over YouTube. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up YouTube videos of it. But you know what? We should be cheering the Syrians on to defend our rights. Because these same people who are going over to kill the Syrians are the same people who are going to come over to kill us. Who are trying to take away our rights, our birthright, our children's birthrights. They're just mopping up all the countries before they come after us. Sick of it. Tired of it. Handout pictured released. The ATF is a criminal organization. They ship guns over to Mexico to blame it on the Second Amendment, give it to cartel members who are killing Mexicans who are defenseless over there, who are already terrorized like crazy by their own government, and the ATF boss threatens whistleblowers for talking about them. Well, of course, they're criminals. They're gonna say that. That's like the mafia saying, hey, you know what? You tell on us, we're, sleep with the fishes. On July 9, 2012, ATF Acting Director Todd Jones told potential whistleblowers that they will face, quote, consequences, mafia boss says, if they don't, quote, respect the chain of command and ask permission to release information damaging to the agency. Of course, they're going to say no every single time. That's like you have to ask permission. You know what? If you ask the Don boss permission, if you can tell on him for, dumping dead bodies in the lake, or shipping guns to Mexico to blame it on the Second Amendment to demonize Americans so that lawful abiding Americans can lose their guns so that criminals can come in and do whatever they want to them, well, I don't know. Gee, they're probably not going to let you do it, and in most cases, you're probably going to get fired and killed. Sleep with the fishes. See, so that's why they're doing this. And that's what mob bosses do. Quote, choices and consequences means simply that if you make poor choices, that if you don't abide by the rules, that if you don't respect the chain of command, if you don't find the appropriate way to raise your concerns to your leadership, there will be consequences, because we cannot tolerate an undisciplined organization, he said. In other words, if you're not part of the mafia and you're going to tell on us, well, you're going to sleep with the fishes. You got some consequences coming if you're an honest person. We don't have room for honesty in this organization. We are a mafia criminal organization called the ATF, and we're going to kill you if you tell on us, okay?
This is your last chance.
Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
last chance. This is your 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 last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Goes, 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 goes,
Yes. Coming to you from behind real enemy lines. El Paso, Texas. Broadcasting worldwide. This is the Freedom Network. I am your humble host, Angel Diaz. Right now I have my microphone. It's tangled here. Today it is March 11th, 2013, 6:09 p.m. And what we're going to talk about here is a lot, so let me cover that. Basically, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City bombing, establishment media, basically running the meme of patriots bombing places. Plus, we're going to go over the fact that Colorado sheriffs are now threatened to lose their pay over gun control opposition. So we're also looking at that. Plus, I've kind of lost my voice today, so I'm going to try to talk through as much as I can and play some media for you. DHS is also going to purchase more firearms as arms buildup intensifies between Department of Homeland Security and freedom-loving patriots like you and I. We're also going to look at DHS and DoD funding increasing nationwide. Also, mainstream media warning of anti-government groups. CDC has a firearm control study, which is strange. And Anonymous promises more hacks and calls for civil war in America. So, lots of interesting stuff going on today. If you're just joining us, my name is Angel Diaz. I am your humble host. This is the Freedom Network, and it is March 11th, 2013, 6:11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we are truly in a very exciting and interesting time. As all of this is happening, there is a media blackout over the checkpoints, over all of the different militarization of the police. There's a media blackout over the arms buildup going on in the Department of Homeland Security. There's a media blackout on the internment camps. That it's actually open media. I mean, you can read it on the Army.mil website. Of course, they won't let you read the documents anymore. But I'm pretty sure there's alternative media that you can find it. I used to have the documents, but when I rebooted my computer, a lot of stuff got lost. So, anyways, media blackout over basically New World Order, while everybody parties on and lives in a drunken stupor of complete, utter annihilation of common sense and any semblance of self-determination, as
one part of humanity de-evolves into a gorilla-like state, and the other part of humanity, very few, evolve into the freedom-loving, self-determined individuals, rugged, fighting for their lives. Now, when I say fighting, I don't talk about resistance, because unlike Alex Jones, and I'm not here to debate with Alex Jones. Alex Jones does a really, really good job of reporting the news. But I'm here to say this much. I'm here as a journalist, giving you the truth as it is, and nothing more. But I'm also, because I am a true journalist, and I'm for free market, free media, that type of deal. I'm pro-liberty, and that's even taken a step further. I was an anarchist in high school, but I realized anarchism and liberty are not exactly the same. And I do prefer liberty. What it means is that anarchy is basically complete degradation, a breakdown of societal. There's no even communes or community effort. Everyone is just doing whatever they want. Not necessarily that would not necessarily break down into chaos, and I can get into all kinds of arguments with anarchists and say why liberty is even better, why the idea of standing up for yourself and living for yourself without any political memes is even better than the idea of a political meme that you have to live by forever. I don't think that's fair. I think that in a sense that is its own dictatorship. And so we have to really analyze the memes we're throwing out there and the type of influence we have on the world when we say things. So let me get into our first topic right now. There's a lot going on. This is from OccupyCorporatism.com. Susan Postle wrote this article. If I can pull it up. Sometimes my internet shuts down because it just does. I hope I don't get shut off on this radio show while I do this, because I'm rebooting my own internet while I'm on the radio show, if you can believe that. But I'm doing it on another computer, so hopefully it has no effect. Okay, here we go. So, the article goes on to say, Americans for Responsible Solutions, another quasi-organization, has put out an anti-gun ad, a quasi-government organization, calling for the support for federal legislation to restrict the Second Amendment rights of all Americans. She goes on to write that AFRS is a 2019 for-nonprofit headed by former House Representative Gabrielle Giffords and her husband Mark Kelly. The organization networks and lobbies for gun control while bringing together, quote, like-minded friends who will propagandize to the public and force Congress to, quote, take a stand for responsible policies. Legislators will no longer have a reason to fear the gun lobby and their dangerous deep pockets. There is no gun lobby anymore, folks. The NRA is barely a gun lobby, and sometimes they even side with gun control. In fact, when the NRA first started, it was to register. I mean, folks, they lie to you so often. They get you to believe it's like this Orwell Double Speak that that patriots, freedom-loving patriots, are terrorists. What does that mean? Before, when 9/11 was going on, patriots were the heroes, right? So Bush was saying if you weren't with us, you were against us. That's why the, quote, Patriot Act was signed into law, right? Well, guess what? Now they're saying patriots are the terrorists. So, I don't care what side you're on at this point. It's very obvious. It's very, very obvious. It's in your face obvious that you are the enemy. You are always the enemy. Because these people aren't here to help you. These people are here to hurt you, to take away your lives, your children's lives. They use the system. They manipulate it. They make you feel safe with police around. They make you act like sheep. They make you think that, oh my God. And don't get me started, because you know what? A long time ago when I was being mugged, 2 police officers stood right there and watched me as I called for them. And I could grab my gun, and it was over just a few yards away. But I thought to myself, if the cops see me do that, maybe they might arrest me or get the wrong idea. So let me call them over. As I get beat up by 5 guys, I should have grabbed my gun. And you know what? That is just one example of how the system just ignores you. It doesn't care about you. But you're so defiled, you're so degraded, you're so sheepish. You don't even know how to protect yourself. You don't know how to fire a gun. You don't know how to even throw a punch. Or maybe you threw a few chingazos, you know, like they say in El Paso, excuse my French, in a bar or something. But the reality is, you don't know what it's like to defend yourself because you never have done it for yourself. The only gun you've ever used is one that a cop has carried. And I'm not talking to everyone who listens to this radio show. And I like to thank new listeners for coming on. This is really exciting because even though it's not as big as my radio show used to be, I got a lot of listeners yesterday, and it shows me that maybe I'm hitting a nerve. And I am, because I got banned from Facebook for 2 days for posting news that was offensive to Facebook. Of course, Facebook says I was misusing my post, whatever that means. So I'm banned for 2 days for posting too fast, quote unquote. And I wasn't even posting that fast. I know more people every day that post all kinds of crap, and they never get banned for 2 days from Facebook. Not one. I see people post crap that doesn't even make sense. I see people post degraded crap. Of themselves or some girl that they saw, you know, that they take pictures of. This is what society is becoming on a mass scale. I mean, we're living the zombie apocalypse. The only difference is the disease hasn't hit yet. But psychologically, they're already there. The majority of the public are zombies. Period. But there's a few of us who are still awake and somewhat immune to the attacks on our intelligence. Because we're not living, I realize this now, because when I go to school or university, we're not living in a world where we actually have our quote unquote freedoms. Because if you live in a society where you're compartmentalized and put into a structured system, and you're just a worker drone for a larger machine, and that machine was actually growing and is actually created for you to live in a prison, and that prison is expanding and then ever expanding, and it's actually eating away your substance and eating away the substance of other countries and other nations, and getting cultures to turn on each other and expanding, that is not freedom. It's not. It's slavery. It's being inside of a prison. But I digress. So, Mom, I'm on the radio live. I can't go to the door right now. I'll I'll get to you on break, okay? Sorry about that, folks. That's very unprofessional of me, but I do have a mother living next door that I do take care of, and I love her very much. So on their agenda for limited gun rights are common sense policy that stops shootings, quote unquote. Common sense policies, oh yeah, like criminal background checks. Limiting high-capacity magazines, because we all know that high-capacity magazines are far more dangerous than a knife. Or a lighter to a bunch of brush. Oh my God! Don't give anyone any magazines, because it's far more dangerous than a brush fire burning down a house. Limiting assault weapons available to the public and stop gun trafficking. And when they say stop gun trafficking, folks, they're clearly like that drone. I can show you on YouTube a drone that was watching a legal gun sale between two people, and then reporting it like it's a crime for them to sell guns to each other. See, that's when you know you're living in a Stasi state. That's when you know that you're not free, or you are free, but your government isn't. Because it's not our government. In fact, a government is never yours, but I mean, I can get into that philosophical debate forever. Even if you're a statist, this government isn't yours. It doesn't work for you. You understand? It's using you. It's manipulating you, because that's the only way it can conquer you. But in the end, it's not working for you. It's working to hurt and dominate you and quite possibly kill you. I mean, slowly, so that way you can rank up the medical bills and pay the Rockefellers as much money as they can possibly make off of your dying corpse. While decrying assault weapons and their dangers to the public, Kelly is acquiring more AR-15s in Tucson, Arizona. After confronted by media, Kelly claimed that he was making a point that, quote, even to buy an assault weapon, the background check takes a matter of minutes. That is not true. That is not true. You know, the last time I bought a gun, it took, I think it was 2 or 3 days. No, but the first time even took longer. The first time it took, I think, a week. And of course they can't let you protect yourself, because there's no such things in a free country. That doesn't exist. Or you're always a prisoner until proven free, right? But you can't even prove you're free anymore. You can't even prove yourself innocent. You're just guilty. Oh, but it's national security, right? They have to be wary of you in a national security threat. Because you're such a threat, you're such a terrorist, according to Homeland Security, that you're a threat to yourself. They have to protect you from you. This is the new wave of thinking. This is a dominating force in the minds of these horrible, power-hungry people. And they want you to believe this garbage. As the nation continues to sway back and forth over whether or not Americans have the right to defend this country against a tyrannical government, yeah, crap. That is just fucking crap. And you know what? Good for the slaves. I say it in high school, and I'm going to say it out here. Good for the slaves. But you know what? I'm not going to join them. I'd rather fight courageously for my life and for my dignity than to be on my knees licking boots. It is a little known fact that under what is affectionately called the, quote, terror gap, suspected terrorists are not prohibited from purchasing a gun. The federal law entitled the, quote, Denying Firearms and Explosives to Dangerous Terrorists Act has loopholes that allow known terrorist suspects to illegally purchase a firearm. Of course, these terrorist suspects are probably just, I don't know, made up threats. Of course, that's exactly what they want you to believe. You know, they want you to believe that you're under a terror attack, so they have to fabricate the threats and then target people who aren't actually threats, but people who can actually protect you. Because the police won't protect you. Look at Chicago. They clearly stated that they won't protect anyone. And nobody has a gun there, because it's not legal to have a gun there. So, complete victimization of a total city. You're not allowed to defend yourself. You have to let yourself be murdered. Really? Really? That's what you believe? Anti-gun people believe that? Okay. Then shut up and be a good little victim. Because that's what's going to happen to you. You are going to get murdered eventually because either the government's going to do it or a criminal's going to do it. But I guarantee you, it's not going to be one of these fabricated terrorist threats. It's just going to be your idiocy and your lack of will to defend yourself. That is what is going to do you in. But I'm not talking to the choir here because the choir agrees with me. By planting the seed that this alleged increase in membership in anti-government groups will correlate with a period of time similar to that which was demonstrated before the false flag Oklahoma City bombing, which took place, which I also predicted. Remember that. I said DHS is buying up a bunch of, RDX, which is what? Explosive, right? Like, tons of it. And then the igniter as well. And then they're saying, well, we're going to go after people who create these RDX IDEs, right? Improvised device explosives, right? And then, all of a sudden, this happens. I mean, how dumb do you have to be to actually fall for this? It's so elementary. But they think you are that stupid. And it's so over the top, folks, that even intelligent people, because they're stuck in their normalcy bias, you know, they're stuck thinking that this could never happen to America, this could never happen to us, that even when it looks so elementary and you point out all the flaws and you show how Homeland Security actually planned to blow up a building and they kept practicing it over and over and over again, and then this happens, and you keep showing this, the public this over and over again, and then, some of them are just drooling, and they give you this smile, either because they want to be a slave, or because they're just stupid, or it's just so over the top, folks. I mean, even intelligent people stuck in their normalcy bias are like, this could never happen, this could never happen. So they dilute themselves, they get themselves to believe, they get in such denial. It's almost like, people dropping from a building. One of the people at the, point zero of the towers when they fell on September 11th, he couldn't even see the bodies. Well, because his brain blocked it out because it was so over the top that sometimes we can't see that we don't want to see it so badly that literally our brain just automatically blocks it out. Well, we need to take those blinders off, folks. And see that our government, or if you don't want to call it our government, Homeland Security, a quasi-organization acting like our government, because they're telling our officials, which aren't even our officials, folks, anyone who calls themselves officials aren't really in charge. What to do. Because they're the terrorists. If they're blowing up buildings, folks, and then they're saying, we need to evacuate you or do whatever we want with you because the terrorists blew up buildings, and they blatantly lie to you over and over and over again, doesn't that make them the terrorists? I'm sorry, I didn't even have to take classes on terrorism. I just kind of figured it out that a terrorist would go and blame somebody else to get more opposition help, because that's how you win a war, because it's called the moral high ground, and it's not real, it's a false moral high ground, but all kinds of terrorists use it now. I mean, it's just the terrorist playbook, right? It seems like it. And it's so freaking elementary, it's just in your face. And then they just say, oh, wait a second, the Patriots, we need to go after the Patriots, because we all know that even though they didn't bomb the building, that even though Homeland Security bought up all that RDX that blew up buildings, that they're probably going to blow up more because they have so much more RDX, and they're going to continue to do this, that the Patriots are to blame indirectly, even though they're being targeted by the same people blowing up the buildings. Oh yeah, we can believe them, right? Because we're freaking retards that are drooling, and we have the IQ of maybe 30. Because I think that's how dumb you would have to be with all of this happening right in front of you. It'd be one thing if I'm ranting, and I'm not supposed to be ranting on the show. I used to have another show called Rant, and that's neither here nor there. So, in a moment's mention, the mainstream media is now gearing the public to anticipate that a large event will occur, and those who will be responsible will be patriots or constitutionalists. Again, Homeland Security bought up a bunch of RDX again. Eric Holder is helping again. The same guy who shipped guns to Mexico under Fast and Furious. You know, we can trust these people to protect us, right? The assertion is that the constitutional right to form and maintain a militia in America is a threat to the U.S. government. Well, no. I was going to say it, but no doo-doo. Okay? I mean, it's really obvious, it's in your face, obvious what's going on here. If they're claiming that a militia in America is a threat to the U.S. government, then the U.S. government is a threat to America. Priming the masses with these ideals creates a sense of aggression toward those who wish to restore our nation to a constitutional republic. And of course, the SPLC has written a letter to the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice recommending that these two federal agencies collaborate to protect the U.S. from anti-governmental, quote, aggressors, and further demonize militias, patriots, and constitutionalists. Of course, a patriot is just another word for a man who fights for his freedom and fights for his country. Which is what I thought we did when we went into the military. I guess I was wrong. It is clear that the latest social meme being perpetuated is that it only takes one person, quote, only takes one person to create an Oklahoma City situation. Yeah, one person in the federal government. I mean, it's clearly that simple. You know, and it's just a bunch of evil monsters. And then the public are just drooling idiots listening to this, and they're literally taking every word that the government says because, of course, they've been indoctrinated by public education. They've been dumbed down to the point of idiocracy. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it's just basically dumb, retarded people that are barely surviving. They can't even feed themselves because they're living around... I mean, they're just a bunch of retards. That's what they want. They want to kill our minds. And I guess there is no room for a hero, you know, at this point. You know, nobody wants to stand up to it, so, I mean, I guess that's what we're left with. But you know what? I'm going to stand up to it. And I say triage the slaves, let them be slaves. They'll eventually join us. The timid join the patriots when this cause succeeds, because then it costs nothing to be one. Of course, you know, cowards don't like to admit that they love freedom. You know, they'll silently admit it with you. I mean, because everyone loves freedom. It's just not fashionable right now. We'll be right back. like to I like to take breaks with music. And I might run my own commercials pretty soon here. And I'm also going to try to get my website up and running so that way you can donate to this radio show, because I'm barely getting started, folks, and I just want my freedom, and I just want to know what's going on in the world, and I know that you want to know what's going on in the world, and that's why I do this. So, there's this article by Steve Watson I've been eyeing. It's Colorado sheriffs, Senate Democrats threaten pay freezes over gun control opposition. Claims law enforcement are being blackmailed into backing down. Now, I read about when the sheriffs were standing up for the Second Amendment, and now sheriffs are being threatened to basically not be paid for their jobs, just because they stand up for freedom, for the Constitution, for the very thing that they gave lip service to. Now, it's not lip service, they're actually committed to. And folks, when the government literally tries to give pay freezes over an opinion on freedom, and the opinion is on the right side of freedom, that's when you know you're living in a dictatorship. So this is an article by Steve Watson. Sheriffs in Colorado have accused Senate Democrats of threatening to withhold pay raises as payback for the law enforcers' opposition to multiple draconian gun control bills currently making their way through the legislature. El Paso County Sheriff Terry Makita told a local radio talk show host this weekend that he had been notified by lobbying group the County Sheriffs of Colorado that, quote, the Senate Democrat leadership is very upset with the sheriffs and their opposition to the gun control bills. Well, that's right here in El Paso County. The group also allegedly told Makita that unnamed members of the Democratic leadership in the Senate had threatened to delay a vote on a legislation that would see sheriffs' salaries improved in Colorado, saying that he would take up the matter with Colorado Attorney General John Suthers. Sheriff Makita said, quote, what they're saying is you have really upset us, and it's, quote, almost a coercion, extortion, blackmail, or influence of a public official through pay. And it is. It's completely corrupt. It's blackmail, it's corrupt, and it's literally extortion. So it goes beyond that. It's illegal, folks. It's not just an issue of right and wrong. This is illegal, and it's injustice on a grand scale. Makita added that the sheriffs in the state have had their pay frozen since 2006 and are entitled to a 10% increase. With reference to the content of the gun control bills, Makita noted that they amount to an attempt to ensure some residents would be forced to surrender their firearms and ammunition. Well, these sheriffs are good guys then, because they believe in the right side of the law. Even prior to conviction for a crime, they are forcing citizens before being proven guilty to surrender their weapons, he said. And there's Makita's comments below. I think we can listen to that. Yeah, let's take a listen to that, folks. Let me see if I can get that up, because I'm using two internets here, and I think my mom's using the internet as well. So let's see if this will work. Hold on.
right, welcome back to the Jeff Crank Show. Colorado 740 KVOR. What a compelling story that Kim Weeks told us about her rape, and then, of course, her refusing to be a victim but to be a survivor and to stand up and testify in the Senate on these gun bills. Joining me, Sheriff Terry Makita is going to join us. I want just to frame this, and this is what Sheriff Makita wants to talk about, is sort of the way citizens were treated at this, and then some other issues at these gun hearings. And of course, Sheriff Makita, always a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. This is the exchange that was discussed between Evie Hudak and a rape survivor, Amanda Collins, who was another rape survivor who testified. It's just a minute or so long. Let me play this, and then I'm going to bring Sheriff Makita up to discuss.
Soon, what I described to you earlier will fade into your memory, and you probably won't think about it again. But I can't pray it away. I live every day with the implications, being a survivor of rape, and what they have on my life, which I cannot go into because of time constraints. And as I live with the memory, excuse me, weighted with the question of my life, what would have been different if I had been carrying the weapon I was licensed to carry that night? I would like to leave you with a question. How does rendering me defenseless protect you against a violent crime?
Senator Hudak. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for sharing your story. Very, very unsettling story. I just want to say that actually statistics are not on your side, even if you had a gun. You said that you were a martial arts student, and yet, person experienced in Taekwondo.
That's bullshit,
and
by
yet,
the way.
Because this individual was so large, was able to overcome you.
That's bullshit, by the way. I just have to add that the statistics are on her side. If she would have had a gun, she would have been able to defend herself. And notice the condescending tone of this woman. Would she have protected her if she was being raped? No. No. She wouldn't have protected you if you were being beat up. Would she have protected me while I was being beat up by 5 guys? No. And being a survivor of that makes me glad to carry a gun. Because you know what? If anyone wants to hurt me, I will defend myself. And at least I'm not going to die in a ditch holding my head in my hands because I'm bowing down to the government and literally doing what the government wants to become a victim. You're only a victim if you choose to be a victim. And I choose not to be a victim. Here it is.
Even with your skills, and chances are that if you had a gun, then he would have been able to get that from you and possibly use it against you.
Wrong.
And she just goes on and on. That's her comment. That's the way citizens of Colorado who went up to testify, that's the way they were treated. Evie Hudak knew better how to stop a rape of Amanda Collins than Amanda Collins should have known. So she should legislate that down. It's very disturbing. Sheriff Terry Makita joins us. Sheriff Makita, you saw some of this. You went up and testified along with several other sheriffs from around the state of Colorado. The citizens of Colorado have been treated very shabbily in this debate by their legislators.
Well, good morning, Jeff, and I absolutely agree. And I want to begin by saying that those two young ladies deserve a lot of credit. I witnessed a great demonstration of courage to stand up to them and share a very traumatic and personal experience. So I applaud their efforts, and I thank them as a citizen.
Yeah, no question.
Jeff, I've been going up to the Capitol, and I've made trips with you, testifying either in support or against bills now for the last 12, 13 years. And what I witnessed this year on Monday was far from anything I have ever seen. the rules changed 3 times from the Thursday before right up until the hour before the hearings. They were changing the rules, and I'll tell you, they were all changed to eliminate the opportunity for citizens to be heard. And I think that in itself is an injustice, but it's also an example of the abuse that has taken place by our legislators.
Well, and no question about it. And you and I talked briefly last night about it. I was sort of amazed by what you told me. The sheriffs took some heat for testifying, for coming up and supporting the Second Amendment. And, you know, I've always, sometimes police chiefs aren't the most friendly to the Second Amendment, though our current one here in Colorado Springs is. But sheriffs tend to be, and I think part of that is they're elected by the citizens. You've been a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. Many sheriffs around Colorado are. They know it helps them do a good job at law enforcement, to have law-abiding citizens armed. They were basically threatened in a way, you tell me, that if they came up and testified, or because they came up and testified, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, there is probably 30 sheriffs that made the trip, and there would have been a lot more, of course, but they got to come from all corners of the state, and we still have our responsibilities. But those of us that came were there as a group and speaking on behalf of those that couldn't be there, and I'll tell you, it's a vast majority that oppose all of these bills because factually and statistically they're not going to accomplish what they claim to. They're emotionally driven and they have no backing. And I think you're right, Jeff. Sheriffs are elected, so they have a much more direct contact and sense of how their citizens feel. They really do, and I've been doing this a long time now. One of the concerning things is I've always been able to testify on a bill, and the rules were changed to only one sheriff could speak per bill. They would allow us to stand in support of the sheriff speaking, and I had an extra privilege extended by our Senate Minority Leader, Bill Cadman, who got me on the stand to be able to testify, and I felt honored, but it was the citizens I felt for that made the trip that they never had their voice heard. Having said that, I had to leave the Capitol and fly out of town for a commitment I had in Columbus, Ohio, and when I returned on Wednesday, I was actually driving back Wednesday morning from DIA, and I received an email from a member of CSOC, and basically the email said that the Senate Dem leadership is very upset with the sheriffs and their opposition to the gun control bills. And there's another bill that has been put off, and that is the Salary Commission, which makes recommendations to the legislature for the pay of sheriffs and other county elected officials. And as you know, Jeff, my pay is actually set by the legislature. Well, Governor Ritter, under his tenure, created a commission that would study these salaries and come forward with fact-backed recommendations. Now, this salary bill has no effect on me, but the Dems have been dangling it out there and refusing to follow their own created commission's recommendations. They put it off now for 2 years, and basically in that email it said, you sheriffs, the Senate majority leadership, the Dems, are very upset with your testimony and opposition on the gun bills, and they are stating that basically we should reconsider our positions to gain a more favorable light for salary support from the Dems. The email went on to say, I do not believe this would be sacrificing our principles or positions on other gun bills if we choose to support 197. Well, I was absolutely outraged by that. Number one, the salary bill for elected officials is a mandate of the legislature. Creating gun control is not a mandate, and in this case, there is no factual basis for it. And I made it very clear that I felt it was almost bordering extortion, attempted to influence a public official, but more so that we would be sacrificing our morals and principles and what we know is the right thing to do. And I think that's the type antics that we're seeing out of the leadership up there, and it starts right at the top with the President of the Senate, and the chairman of those committees, and the same tactics they used that prevented sheriffs from having the opportunity to testify on factual bases toward these bills, as well as blockading the hundreds and hundreds of citizens that made the trek that have never testified, and prevented them from testifying.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Sheriff Makita, I mean, what you just told me, I don't understand how that honestly isn't a crime. I mean, they are, and I'll make the allegation of it. I think that the Attorney General ought to investigate that. They're out there telling sheriffs, oh, you know, this may affect how we're going to do, how we're going to vote or bring up your salary because you took a position on this. First of all, the chilling effect that has on the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. But I got to tell you, if that's happening, and John Morris, a legislator from right here in El Paso County, is doing that, where is the Denver Post? Where is the Gazette? Where is the news media investigating this claim? And we need to find out if John Suthers will investigate. I just don't understand why we wouldn't push forward on this. That is absolute corruption to do that. I'm going to take a quick break. Sheriff Makita, I'll let you have your thoughts when we come back.
And so there you have it. We're going to also take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to go over we're just going to go over the rest of it. You know, how basically the sheriffs are being extorted, how this is the new attack on the sheriffs. You know, this was a long time coming. You know, the sheriffs are our last line of defense, and so they're basically what we have left other than ourselves. And you know what? It's about time we just stand up for ourselves. We'll be right back.
I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25, but I am still alive.
I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn of Mexico. I went aloft to furl the mainsail in a blow. And when the yards broke off, they said that I got killed. But I'm living still. I was a dam builder across a river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. But I am still around. I'll always be around, and around, and around, and around, and around. I fly a starship across the universe divide. And when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again. Or I may simply be a single drop of rain. But I will remain. And I'll be back again and again and again and again and again.
Welcome back to the Freedom Network. I'm your host, Angel Diaz, and it is It is a crazy day, March 11th, 2013, a crazy Monday. It doesn't feel like a Monday for me, I guess, because starting things a little late today. That's okay. I'm going to have a time slot scheduled once I figure out how I'm going to run this radio show. But I should have it scheduled soon. I think I'm going to do it more around 6 p.m. because it's a lot easier to get prepared. There's a lot I have to do during the day, and right now I'm dealing with very shoddy equipment. I have to upgrade a lot of my radio equipment. So I need to get a website going so that way I can get a donation going to this radio program like I had before. So Makita is actually speaking out about this in El Paso County, which is very surprising, and it's very encouraging because I'm not a fan of Richard Wiles, and I don't know very many of the sheriffs in El Paso County, but it's good to know that we have one that's actually willing to stand up for the Second Amendment. So this is actually a good sign on a local level, and if we can get our local governments, not our local governments, I hate that phrase, and officials, definitely not. Anybody who calls themselves that, they're not working for you. If we can get people at the local level, just people, it doesn't matter whether they wear a badge or not, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay? A community effort to influence our rights, influence our freedom back into the culture of the community, then there's nothing that the federal government can do to push us around, because then we would be able to exercise our states' rights, which we will get into a bit later. But here it is, Makita speaking out on this guy's radio show. I guess he runs a radio show here in El Paso, Texas himself, about being extorted by the government, being told that, hey, you're not going to get paid unless you agree with us, unless you literally sign on to this bill that's so treasonous it'll make your head spin and betray your country. So here it is.
The Jeff Crank Show. Drive safe out there. Joining us right now, Sheriff Terry Makita. We're talking about these gun bills and just really the way that the Democrats are trying to ram these bills through. By the way, go to jeffcrank.com. I've got the names and phone numbers of the 4 senators you ought to contact. You can do it today and do it before Monday, because they're going to have third reading of these bills in the Senate on Monday. We can still make a difference. And we already have on the campus carry bill, which Angela Herron decided that she wasn't going to support, and that bill died. So we are a couple of votes short of making a difference on this. Sheriff Makita, you've always been a great supporter of the Second Amendment. I phrased it, and I think many have phrased it over the last couple of weeks. I phrased it in the last segment. This is a women's rights issue. I mean, women being able to fight back with a firearm. How in the world would anybody who cares about women want to take that right away from them?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Jeff. It is about a women's right, but it's all citizens' rights. And they've been very clever at picking titles that almost ring of common sense, and it's not until you read the language and you realize the implications and the very probable criminalization of otherwise very law-abiding citizens that would never commit a crime in their life. And the bill that they're holding our salary bill over, and let me just comment on the salary bill.
Yeah, please do.
It does not affect me at all. It has no impact. If they pass the bill, I benefit from it in no way. As you know, I'm term limited. But it's based on a study through a process the Dems put together, and I'll give you an example of comparison. They're recommending a 10% increase because the sheriffs haven't seen a raise since 2006. If you compare a chief's salary across the state, they have gone up somewhere between 14 and 18.9%. So it was a legitimate responsibility of the legislature. And as what they're saying is, you have really upset us, and it's almost a coercion, extortion, blackmail, or influence of a public official through pay to say support 197. Well, 197 is the domestic violence offender, and my greatest concern is so many of our citizens will look at that and go, okay, well, we're talking about those violent people involved in domestic violence, when in reality we're not. And I have looked at the statistics in El Paso County, Colorado Springs, and on a statewide level. And it's a Fourth Amendment or a Fifth Amendment issue. It's about now they had law enforcement seizing weapons. They took that out, and they put it in the hands of the court to go in and even prior to a conviction of a crime, they are forcing citizens, before proven guilty, to surrender their weapons, and they're given 3 options. And it's not just weapons, it's ammunition. And when I look at the state statistics on domestic violence, only about 40% involve any kind of an assault. And if they want to really ban the objects used in the commission of those assaults, they ought to be removing blunt objects, because that is used more than firearms. And cutting instruments like knives are almost used double the opportunity as compared to guns, but guns only represent 1.6%. So they're using it as an excuse, and it truly is taking rights away from citizens, treating them like criminals before they have their day in court. And I think they're tampering not only with the Second Amendment, they're infringing on your Fourth Amendment rights and your Fifth Amendment rights, and they're side-skirting that by using a civil process. And these facts need to get out to the citizens, because, like I said, they are using titles that on the surface you hear and you say, yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, those people are dangerous. When in reality, we're punishing a far larger majority. We're affecting the rights of a far larger majority than those they claim that this targets. And study after study at the national level, even during the Brady, the last assault weapons ban that was from 94 to 2004, DOJ, NIC, the Urban Institute, and the Journal of Medicine all concluded that ban had no effect.
Yeah, well, and this isn't it's about their political agenda to control firearms and ultimately to control people. That's kind of the ultimate goal here. I want to go back though a little bit to that. I mean, what I'm sitting here thinking, why would this not be extortion, to withhold pay of an elected official when you have power over them to do that? If you did that in a private business and you were the CEO of a company and you said to an employee, you know what, I'll give you a salary increase if you do this, and you put pressure on them to do that, that would be criminal. So why would it not be in this case? And what do we need to do to push this? Can we push this forward? Would it be Attorney General John Suthers or who that gets the opportunity to pursue this?
Well, it would actually be the Attorney General. And I'll tell you what concerns me the most is it's going to be a lot of, well, I didn't say that, he said that, or she said that. And it will be a challenge, but I think it absolutely needs to be looked into. I think a line needs to be drawn between right from wrong and a legal approach versus an unlawful act on behalf of the leadership. And I have the exact wording in that email. I'm putting a letter in the Gazette. I'm hopeful that they will print it on Tuesday. They told me that they would get it in Tuesday or Wednesday. They are anxious to see it because I want to cover a couple topics in it, and I think it needs to serve as the basis to, number one, let citizens know what's going on, but also really hold those accountable that are expressing in an indirect way, sheriffs, obey or you will pay.
Right. Yeah, there's no question about it, and I hope that you will push this. Are you going to talk to Attorney General Suthers or push the issue with him? I think he should be asked to investigate this.
Well, I've been having conversations beginning with the sheriffs that I work with. First of all, to make sure that they don't cave on this, I've had conversations with our Senate Minority Leader, Bill Cadman, Representative Amy Stevens, to really push this and not let it just lie down and not be held hostage over the future of sheriff's pay over an issue or issues that will have no impact on crime and violent crime. Yeah, I'm going to push it, Jeff.
Yeah, okay, great. And then I know that you have something coming up, I know, with Peggy Littleton coming up. I think it's this week, isn't it?
Yes, it is. March 9th, we're holding a town hall meeting, and really it's to get the truth out there about this gun legislation, because I've had calls from citizens that have said, Sheriff, why wouldn't you support universal background checks? And I tell them this isn't universal. We have universal. We have the gun show loophole covered. This is now about affecting citizens' right to exercise their right of ownership, and it requires, for instance, Jeff, if you are on a business trip and you leave a firearm for your wife so she can protect her and your son, you need to get a background check. And it's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm already hearing from sheriffs around the state that some of these FFL dealers are saying, you know what, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do those background checks. We have the right to exercise authority over our personal property, whether it be a car or a firearm, and it's our decision who we let use those items, and it's our decision who we give those items to.
Yeah. It's ultimately, it's about control of people, right?
It is all about control of people.
All right, and so this town hall meeting Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. at Centennial Hall, which is 200 South Cascade. Commissioner Littleton, Sheriff Terry Makita. Hey, thanks for all your work on the Second Amendment issue and keeping our community safe.
Thank you, Jeff, and you keep up your good work, because it takes us working together to stop this nonsense.
All right, thanks, Sheriff Makita. We need to pursue that. I'm telling you, I'm going to make sure that this thing gets pursued. Where is the Denver Post? Where is the Gazette on pushing for an investigation into whether John Morris and the Senate Democrats inappropriately pressured these sheriffs? I think it's extortion. Welcome back, and this is the Freedom Network. I'm your host, Angel Diaz. So, basically what's going on is a bunch of terrorists are trying to take away our guns, and they're threatening our sheriffs, which we should support at this point, who are doing their desperate duty to defend our rights.
to carry a firearm. Of all people to defend our rights, standing up in the public, we should all be standing up. So, Makita noted, I think it absolutely needs to be looked into, describing the alleged threat as, quote, sheriffs obey or you will pay. Basically, that's what they're saying. So, Makita goes on to say a line needs to be drawn between right from wrong and a legal approach versus an unlawful act on the behalf of the leadership. Okay. In further comments on his Facebook page, Makita wrote, quote, this message insinuated that this could negatively affect the salary bill, which has been delayed and put off by the Democrats, with the excuse that they would expect bipartisan support. Yeah, right. The Republicans are for gun control as well. I do believe the salary proposal is being held hostage, and I believe if they're willing to send gun control measures without bipartisan support, then they should be willing to take a stand as the majority leadership and follow a Democrat-created commission's recommendations. When asked about the allegations, CSOC President Fred McKee told the Denver Post that he had not heard anything about the matter. In a statement issued Monday, Senate President John Morse denied the allegations were accurate. Quote, these allegations are not only false, they are ridiculous, he wrote. And, I mean, this guy's a jerk, obviously. And he goes on to say Sheriff Makita is referencing an email from a member of Sheriff's Trade Association, CSOC, a lobbying and political organization. He has provided no evidence that anyone in the leadership actually said or emailed they were withholding a pay increase to get support on the gun safety bills. Notice how he says that he has no evidence. All people who are guilty of something always say, the first thing they say is they have no evidence. They don't go to say, oh, well, I would never do something like that. No, he's saying he doesn't have any emails or anything like that. Okay. But you're indirectly admitting that you said that. The Colorado Senate advanced 5 of the gun control bills for a final vote scheduled for today. 3 of the bills have already passed the House. Of course, as we have previously reported, county sheriffs all over the country have been very outspoken with regards to state efforts to institute gun control legislation essentially passed down from the federal level. Many sheriffs have declared such efforts to be unconstitutional and have vowed not to enforce any laws that encompass gun confiscation or infringements on the Second Amendment. But that is not all, okay? We cannot just rely on the sheriffs to protect us, because in reality, this is a red alert for us to protect ourselves. When a government is coming in for the guns, folks, and your last line of defense, which has been government controlled for a long time now, actually tries to defend you, and establishment types are actually trying to defend you, there's a complete evil that must be so sick, so dark, so malicious, coming over the mountain with tyranny, that we need to arm ourselves. We need to be prepared for what Homeland Security has planned for us next. Because I guarantee you it's going to be hell on earth if we're not prepared. So that is what I wanted to talk about. And I know I kind of went on and on and on and on about it. So, but it needs to be said. There's too many stupid people in this world that don't understand what's going on. And it's all because the mainstream media runs all these kinds of memes and people believe it. So we need to unwash the washed masses. DHS to purchase more firearms as arms buildup intensifies. That's by Paul Joseph Watson. The police will protect you, so turn in your guns. Neocon turned Democrat ideologue argues for disarmament as tyranny grows in America. So, I mean, of course, more and more. You're going to see this more and more in the media because this is the plan. The plan is to get rid of people like me who are fighting for their lives and just have nothing but slaves and sheep. Excuse me, just like in Nazi Germany, when you take away the very people fighting for your rights, the Jews, or whatever, And then what's left over? Well, nothing but the sheep. And sheep aren't going to protect you, so yeah, you get what you deserve. David Frum, and that's how they look at it anyways, themselves, not just me, themselves, the ones that are going to kill pretty much everybody. David Frum, a neocon and former Bush speechwriter, wants you to disown your gun. Yeah, folks, disown your gun. In other words, you don't own your stuff. So you not only lose your Second Amendment rights, now you lose your right to ownership of anything because you're a slave on a plantation. According to the establishment media, neocons are conservatives, hence the, quote, con, as con men. And as such, you think they'd line up with other supposed conservatives on supporting the Second Amendment. However, neocons are not Republican conservatives. They are more accurately of a socialist pedigree. Early neocons had a falling out with Democrats and liberals over the Vietnam War and other less than palatable aspects of the so-called New Left in the late 1960s. Francis Fukuyama, the political economist who experienced an epiphany and subsequently fell out of the neocon orbit, attributes the political movement to Leninism, while other critics point to the influence of the Bolshevik Leon Trotsky. Either way, the neocons are avid proponents of state power over the individual. In other words, you and I. Or, well, if you are capable of individual thought and capable of thinking for yourself, of course. On the other hand, their supposed Republican friends, at least in theory, are more libertarian in thought, though not necessarily in action. So it is really quite natural that a guy like David Frum, a former neocon who found his calling as a CNN and Daily Beast contributor, is warning the public about the dangers of guns. Oh yeah, like the dangers of matches, the dangers of using a knife, the dangers of walking outside and possibly getting into a car accident, the dangers of crossing the street. A warning that runs parallel to a concerted government campaign to strangle the Second Amendment. Unlike his Democrat friends, though, David is not calling for a sledgehammer approach. He argues instead that America is a safe place and guns are not necessary. Yeah, like Chicago has the highest murder rate in the world, and they don't have any guns to protect themselves. It's completely illegal there. And it's the most crime-ridden area in the freaking country. Because you can't protect yourself. Never mind that. Never mind that one fact out of many facts of what happens when there's no more guns. And he goes on to say, the good news is that as America becomes safer, fewer and fewer Americans, I'm saying in a very idiot-like voice, unless he's authoritarian, whatever, Americans feel the need for a weapon, he writes. In a post-Newtown era of shrill calls for repeated daily for everything from exorbitant taxes on ammunition to downright gun confiscation disguised as, quote, sensible buyback programs. I mean, this is literally beyond treason. It's like it's like they want to get a civil war going. That's what it seems like. Frum's argument is at best fictional. Only 1/5 of young Americans own a gun. 1/3 of over, 50 Americans do. Republicans are twice as likely to own a gun as Democrats. Maybe not so coincidentally. Republicans are more likely to watch the scariest news on the channel of them all, Fox. Whites are twice as likely to own a gun as non-whites. And it may also not be a coincidence that gun purchases have suddenly spiked since, November 2008. When, a whole bunch of people were killed by, false flag terror events, which are implicated to Eric Holder and everyone else in the government. Of course, you have idiots that don't understand even the memes, so they even say it in front of you, and basically the majority of the public are just drooling idiots laughing about it. Because, the majority of the public want to be slaves, so it's almost like, I look at it this way, the majority of the public are like weapons. And they're weapons that are being used against real, intelligent Americans who understand how things are actually working, who aren't tied up in the mythos and the stupid Republican-Democrat fight. I mean, that's just total retards. I mean, it's just sick. It's sycophantic, it's sick, and it's disturbing. And these are the best arguments that they could come up with. Because they think everyone is a child. And I guess the majority of the public are infantile. Mr. Fromm's conclusion, because they can barely speak, let alone think critically. Mr. Fromm's conclusion, Americans think they need firearms because they watch violent shows on television. Oh yeah, the same drooling idiots in America that are anti-gun, yeah, they're going to go out and shoot people. Well, they might actually do that, because I have a tendency to notice this. Anti-gun people have the tendency to be more violent. Maybe that's why they don't want the right to carry guns, because either they're authoritarian and they want to kill us, or they're just complete morons and they think that they're going to kill themselves and kill others because they're mentally ill. So he goes on to argue that because they watch Fox News, yeah, of course, Fox News, oh my gosh, the same news that tells people that they shouldn't own guns. In short, the intellectual Fromm is no more intellectual than basically almost above par of the average idiot in America. Sincerely believes most of us are idiots, unable to discern reality from Hollywood and make-believe. But I guess, most of the public is infantile, so I guess they are. And it may also not be a coincidence that gun purchases have suddenly spiked. Okay? Or in the case of Fox News, sensationalistic propaganda. That's what he basically wants us to believe. I don't even think, when I think of the general public, I think that they're so far gone that they don't even understand the argument. The more terrifyingly criminal the world looks, the more ineffective law enforcement seems. The more Americans demand the right to deadly weapons with which to defend themselves. The former speechwriter explains. It is local TV programming directors, not the National Rifle Association, who are tirelessly persuading Americans that they need to strap a gun to their legs before heading to the mall. Yeah, the same shows on TV, I don't know, that show guns as illegal, show police officers arresting a man with a gun, like an after-school special. These TV shows make people carry guns. The same TV shows that, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where Eric Holder says we basically need to brainwash people into thinking guns are illegal when they're not. A person who can't carry a gun is a coward. Period. They're a coward. Because they can't go to war, they can't defend themselves against fire, and they'd rather be murdered than defend themselves and rely on the police. So they're cowards. They're cowardly sheep. Of course, the exact opposite is the case. But to be fair, Fromm wrote the above in mid-2012 prior to the latest massacre and a hysterically brazen attempt to grab guns. Nonetheless, even before Newton, the establishment media was tirelessly peddling anti-Second Amendment propaganda, just like I said, brainwashing people, while its so-called entertainment division churned out violent television dramas and movies, again, which is false, because they churned out brainwashing, propaganda, anti-Second Amendment stuff. In fact, they even had a show, I guess recently on ABC, called The Founding Fathers, about patriots who were actually a militia. It's just the last people in the entire nation that owned guns, folks. It wasn't even a militia. I watched the show. It just seemed like regular everyday people. But because they owned guns, they were the bad guys. And of course, they had a radio show host that beats his kids and is abusive and and just like me, right? Nothing like me, but clearly this is all used to demonize anyone who basically has a decent amount of intelligence between their eyes. So, and can actually speak. Of course, the exact opposite is the case. So basically, you have Newton saying one thing and then actually another thing happening, and it's just sick. And it's coupled with politicians pushing draconian legislation, gun legislation, while actors are starring in violent films, which aren't really that violent, folks. And these same actors have taken to the spotlight calling for, quote, sensible gun laws. I mean, folks, this is an endless cycle. And they're just playing on your fears. Like your kids. Like your infants. And you know what? Those of you who fall for this are obviously infants. And those of you who don't, well, you'll continue listening to this radio show. The historical reality of, well, he goes, this is by Andrew Napolitano. The historical reality of the Second Amendment's protection of the right to keep and bear arms is that it protects the right to shoot deer. No, that's not true. It's not that it protects the right to shoot deer. That's what he goes on to write. It protects the right to shoot tyrants, and it protects the right to shoot at them effectively with the same instruments they would use upon us. If the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto had the firepower and the ammunition that the Nazis had, some of the Poland might have stayed free and more persons would have survived the Holocaust. And I agree with that. Because guess what? The reason why they didn't fight back wasn't because they were just Nazis and they were scary, folks. It's because they had guns. 2 + 2 = 4. I mean, it's as plain as the nose on your face. As a Jew, you'd think David Frum would understand this, but he doesn't. Of course, no, he doesn't. He's not even a real Jew, probably. And if he is, who cares? You know what? This isn't anti-Semitic at all. If anything, I'm defending his people. But the thing is, he's not. Because he's a member of a, quote, intellectual class that has no use for revolution or the natural right to shoot at tyrants effectively, or criminals, or anyone who comes to hurt you. Because that's wrong, right? You should just let them hurt you. You know what? I'll say it like Zach De La Roca says it. Of course, he wasn't talking about guns. He was talking about just the right to defend yourself. But you know what? I'll throw one more in there. You know, if you're not gonna do the shooting, then let me pull the trigger. If you're gonna be a good little victim, then you know what? Be a victim. Let people run over you. Because you know what? That's exactly what you've become when you buy into this garbage. Of course, he goes on to say all kinds of things. Frum believes the police and the people that they ultimately work to protect us, which is a lie. He does not seem capable of understanding that when the night of the long knives arrives, he will be one of the first victims. I mean, hell, you don't even need a gun to hurt somebody. You can use a knife, you can use lighter, you can use matches, you can use your arms, your fist. You can use your teeth. Are you going to outlaw your teeth now? Folks, this is ridiculous. And this argument is so infantile that even 5-year-olds can see right through this. I mean, if they've effectively dumbed down the massive public to the point where they can't understand this, then we're in trouble, folks. We're in a lot of trouble. And my argument isn't that, that guns are for everyone. Maybe you want to arm yourself with a knife. Maybe you want, good luck against, an AR AK-47, I mean, if you're effective enough with a knife, I guess you could take out the guy. But it doesn't matter. Next, it might be knives. I mean, folks, it's just they want to disarm you. And only people who want to disarm anyone are usually predators. You understand how that works? If I want to go rob somebody, do I really want them to be armed to make it a fair fight? Does a criminal really think about that? I mean, think about it. No. And that's what sickens me about the federal government. They just want to come after you, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, you could think that you're on the side of the system. I've met people who, you know, think that somehow they're on the side of the system, that somehow the system's working for them. And in reality, they didn't get the memo for the fluoride. They didn't get the memo for the GMO. They didn't get the memo for the chemtrails that they're spraying over us to kill us. They didn't get the memo for the radiation. So how is the system working for them? They're killing all of us. And so you have this agenda going on with Bilderberg right now. You have, drones being spotted over New York now. You have, them extorting the sheriffs. You have them ramping up for civil war. They're already building up a firearms depot, and they're telling you everything is fine, nothing is going on. There's a complete media blackout over all of it, over everything. And they really think you're that dumb. And sometimes I think to myself, should I really protect all these masses? No. It's just the few. And I'm just sick of it. They use human beings as a weapon. They use our emotions, like the Sandy Hook operation. That was a false flag. I'm Angel Diaz. This is the Freedom Network. You are listening to a transmission. You are the... I walk the line.